Chapter 1. The Tin Box. The pale morning light seeped through Ivory's bedroom window, casting sets of soft shadows across the hardwood floor. Exhausted from another sleepless, anxious night, she sat motionless at the edge of her bed, her dark brown hair, loose and slightly tangled, framing her face. Her brown eyes, tinted red from recent silent tears, traced the grain of the wood beneath her feet, each knot mirroring the dread that had built in her chest. Outside, cheerful birdsong clashed with the low grumble of a garbage truck, its rumble vibrating through the small, warm room. Her black cell phone buzzed on the white wooden nightstand, its marimba tune sliced the quiet. Ivory's hand darted out, silencing it with a tap, the screen going dark. She pulled her black hoodie over her dark gray graphic t-shirt, the fabric soft but heavy, like armor against the day ahead. Her leggings and laced-up black and white shoes extended the mood, muted, defiant, braced for the day. At her feet lay a matching backpack, its dark canvas a quiet extension of her shadowed resolve. Against the dark ensemble of clothes, her light skin almost seemed to glow faintly, a stark contrast that made her feel both exposed and untouchable, as if the outfit sharpened her edges while also softening her presence. The bedroom was a chaotic canvas of her life, scattered clothes spilled from a laundry basket, markers, paintbrushes, and watercolor tubes littered the floor, and erasers lay like worn, forgotten pebbles. Her dark wooden desk stood against the wall, a sanctuary of her creativity, topped with a stack of blank paper and a large cardboard pencil box, its casing scratched and worn from years of use. Above it, her artwork plastered the wall, a gallery of her soul. The oldest drawings, from when she was about 5, displayed crude stick figures and wild swirls of purple and black, childish scribbles that pulsed with awkward and eerie shapes. The drawings trembled faintly as a nearby ceiling vent hummed. Just a kid's imagination that often seemed like something more. Her newer pieces, lower on the wall, burst with vivid and focused colors. Mythical landscapes, detailed animals, or people with gleaming eyes, forests that seemed to breathe. Each stroke precise, a stark contrast to the childish smears and blobs. Her gaze drifted across her life's gallery until it settled back onto the desk, specifically on the desk's top drawer slightly drawn open. Her throat tightened, a sob clawing its way up, but she swiped at her eyes with her hoodie sleeve and cleared her throat, suppressing her emotional evidence. Footsteps thudded down the hall, ending in a soft knock. "Ivory, you up?" Kai Iki's voice was low and strained, carrying a weight too heavy for words. She didn't answer, her jaw tight, eyes locked on the floor. The door creaked open, and Kai Iki leaned in, his short, curly black hair catching the light. His dark brown eyes startled to find her awake and seemingly ready for the day. His square, dark-rimmed glasses slipped down his nose, and he pushed them up, his tropical patterned shirt, dark greens and subtle pinks, colorful yet out of place against his tense expression. "Oh, sorry, didn't know you were up," he said, his voice soft but laced with worry. Ivory glanced in his direction, then toward the window of her room, silence stretched, thick with unspoken grief. His fingers tightened on the doorframe, knuckles paling, and his gaze flickered with something unreadable. Guilt, perhaps, or sadness. "Got breakfast downstairs," he said, a small smile forming on his face. Ivory's slightly concerned eyes met his as he quickly continued, "I'm keeping it simple, don't worry. Just some donuts and some bacon. Come down when you can, okay? Luis is already down there." He hesitated, his voice dropping to a murmur, almost to himself. "I know it's a lot to face today. We'll head out soon." Ivory flinched slightly at his words, a reaction Kai Iki seemed to notice. With a quiet, shaky sigh, he left the door ajar, his footsteps fading down the hall. Ivory's breath hitched, a lot to face. The words hung like the dark, shadowy scribbles in her old drawings, curling like smoke. After taking a deep breath and slowly exhaling, she crossed to the desk, her sneakers scuffing the floor, carrying her half-filled backpack with one hand, and fully opened the top drawer. Inside lay a tin box, its dark metal surface gleaming faintly. A gift from Mom a few weeks ago for her 15th birthday. She stared at it, her fingers hovering, The cool metal seemed protective. She started to carefully pry it open, the lid creaking when Louisa's bright laugh echoed from the kitchen, sharp and carefree. Ivory froze, her heart tugging, and snapped the box shut, stuffing it into her backpack. She slung the backpack over her shoulder, its weight like an anchor, and headed downstairs, the tin box a silent reminder against her back. The hallway reeked of grease and something burnt, sharp and smoky, stinging her nose. Ivory smirked despite herself, descending the stairs to the kitchen, where the scent grew stronger, mingling with the faint sweetness of sugar. Louisa, 11 and drowning in an old giant t-shirt she had used as a nightgown, sat at the table, her blonde hair a wild, unkempt mess, as if she'd just rolled out of bed. Her big brown eyes glinted with mischief as she chomped down on oversized strips of charred bacon, crumbs flying. "You look like an animal, you weirdo," Ivory teased, her smirk sharpening into a brittle grin. "You're the weirdo," Louisa shot back, chewing with exaggerated smacks and animal noises, her mouth wide open. Ivory's laugh was sharp, a fleeting shield, as she slid into a chair beside her. "Where's Kaiki?" Ivory asked, looking around the kitchen. "Front door," Louisa said, pointing toward the adjacent elving room with a mouth partially filled. "Just airing out the smoke. It stinks in here," she said, spitting bacon bits. "Yeah, no, that's just you," Ivory replied, swallowing a chuckle. The front door stood open, the cool autumn air rushing in, as Kaiki stood on the porch outside, holding the door as wide as it could go, helplessly fanning the air with what looked like a dish towel. I know, I burnt the bacon," he called, his voice sheepish but warm, carrying an easygoing charm that lightened the heavy air. "Good thing we still have donuts." "Donuts?" Louisa's eyes widened, her large nightgown shirt rustling as she turned and noticed the small white box on the counter. "How'd I miss those?" she said as she hopped up and over to the counter, flipped open the top of the box, and immediately began stacking 3 glossy pastries on her plate, piling them atop her crumbling bacon pile. Ivory snagged a chocolate-glazed one, the sugar sweet on her tongue. Their chatter and light laughter a brief spark in the heavy morning. Kaiki gave up on the smoky atmosphere now settling in the house as he joined the girls in the kitchen. He leaned against the counter, the base of his dark curls slightly beading with sweat, his fingers gripping the counter's edge tightly. His eyes lingered on the girls, a flicker of raw grief crossing his face. Louisa's goofy grin, Ivory's quiet defiance, both young echoes of their mother. The doorbell sliced through the morning's fragile warmth. Kaiki's eyebrows raised, and his gaze flicked to his watch. "That's Amber," he said, his voice low. He moved toward the door, his steps heavy, leaving a quiet that felt too loud. Ivory's stomach twisted, her smile now fading, what's left of her donut now forgotten. She caught Louisa's eye, but her sister was already scrambling off her chair. "I gotta get dressed," Louisa said, darting upstairs, pausing to tug at her tangled hair. "Don't leave without me, okay?" "Can't promise that," Ivory said, her voice sharp but soft, a forced smile flickering. She lingered at the kitchen doorway, the murmured pieces of voices from the porch drifting in, Amber's hushed and raw. "Sorry, late. The lawyer got back to me." And Kaiki's reply, tight and urgent, "They can't, not now." The words blurred, heavy with meaning Ivory couldn't fully grasp, but they stung, something she didn't want to face. She'd overheard Kaiki on the phone with Amber yesterday, his voice low through the living room wall, words like guardianship and arrangements muffled but sharp, and the sudden remembrance of the words began to settle like stones on her chest. She slipped down the hall to the bathroom, needing a moment to breathe, the door clicking shut behind her. In the bathroom, Ivory leaned over the sink, her heart hammering. Tears streaked her cheeks, her moles stark against her pale skin. She pressed her face into a gray towel hanging on the wall, muffling her sobs. The light above the mirror seemed to immediately flicker in response to her crying. She stopped and looked up at the row of light bulbs. She heard a faint hum cutting through the quiet as she stared, and it seemed to draw her focus deeper. Her imagination, she told herself, as she blinked rapidly, shaking it off. Setting her backpack on the counter, she pulled out the tin box, its dark silver surface cool under her trembling fingers. She popped it open, revealing a row of pristine, unused colored pencils. However, her focus was on a small, unopened envelope taped inside the lid, her name scrawled in Mom's familiar handwriting, a tiny heart in the O. Her breath caught. Her fingers slowly approached the letter. A memory flashed in her mind. Her first day of grade school, age 6, her stomach churning with nerves about fitting in and making friends. Mom knelt beside her, her hazel eyes warm and glistening in the morning light, her voice steady. "Oh, it's okay, baby girl. Just remember, Ivory, you are brave, you are strong, and you are beautiful." They'd said it together, their voices blending, and Ivory had felt invincible. Later that day, Ivory had opened her purple lunchbox to reveal a small note taped to the inside of the lid. Mom's handwriting, the same mantra, in message form, with a heart in the O in you. The memory faded, and Ivory looked at herself in the mirror. She nodded to her reflection, whispering, "You are A soft knock interrupted. "Ivory, you okay?" Kaiki's voice was gentle but strained. "We need to head out." "Yeah, I'm fine," she called, her voice cracking. She closed the tin box, leaving the envelope undisturbed, and stuffed it back into her backpack, her movements quick, almost frantic. Wiping her face one last time, she slung the bag over her shoulder and stepped out into the hallway and made her way to the front door. In the living room, Kaiki stood by the couch, his glasses glinting, concern etched into his face. Louisa bounced nearby, now in shoes matching her sister's, some jeans, a white shirt with a small floral pattern. Her now wet blonde hair, a more managed mess, curled at the ends as the tips brushed her shoulders. Kaiki glanced at both girls, his voice soft. "Got your essentials? Snacks, clothes, anything you need?" Ivory nodded, her throat tight. "Yeah, the usual stuff," she said, her tone light but tinged with sadness, the weight of countless hospital visits heavy in her words. Louisa tapped her black backpack, identical to Ivory's, in agreement and confirmation. Their backpacks held the usual: granola bars, a spare set of clothes, a favorite book or two for Louisa, sketchbooks and art supplies for Ivory. Packed for long days and nights by their mother's bedside, though today was different, it felt heavier, knowing they wouldn't really need everything inside. Outside, the crisp morning air felt welcome. Despite the cool, Louisa seemed unfazed in her short-sleeved shirt as she trotted across the lawn to the driveway. Ivory had goosebumps even under the comfort of her hoodie, though she suspected the goosebumps may not all be related to the weather. Amber sat in the driver's seat of the white car sitting idle in the driveway, her slender frame hunched, her long brown hair falling over her shoulders. Her shimmering eyes stared into space, lost in thought, until she glanced up, catching Ivory's gaze through the windshield. She quickly wiped her eyes, offering a strained smile and a small wave. Kaiki opened Amber's door, his voice gentle. "I'll drive, Amber." She nodded, her expression holding a familiar heaviness, and walked around to the passenger side. Ivory climbed into the back seat beside Louisa, her sister's chatter filling the car with forced cheer about the donuts, Kaiki burning bacon, the weather, anything to break the silence. Kaiki slid into the driver's seat, his hands tight on the wheel, and Amber settled beside him, their glances heavy but wordless. As the car pulled away, Ivory reached for her backpack on the ground, the tin box's edges pressing through the fabric, a quiet tether to Mom, to home. The weight of the day pressed down. Its purpose wasn't cloaked in the usual mystery, but it felt like another hospital visit nonetheless. With something more, something looming ahead. Her mind raced. She thought of the envelope, her mom's handwriting, of Kaiki's hushed words with Amber. Her chest tightened, the sleepless night pulling at her thoughts swirling with fears she couldn't voice. The car's rumble seemed to oddly match the faint hum from the flickering bathroom light. Or maybe just her mind amplifying the little things. As the world outside blurred, trees streaking past, their branches curling like the strange shapes and scribbles of her childhood drawings. Ivory leaned her head against the window, the glass cool against her cheek, her eyelids heavy, and her breathing slowed. Her thoughts drifted to Mom's smile, as her sister's occasional random interjections faded into the background. With a soft sigh, she slipped into sleep with the car's gentle sway.